We are live. We are live. What's good? What's good, y'all? What's happening? It's your man Ken Billions on the check-in. What's the word? What's up, man? Happy Sunday and all that. Hopefully you good wherever you at with you and yours. We are live. If this your first time coming through, this is Coin Gang Ministries, and I'm your homie. My name is Ken Billions, and what I do is help you get to A to Z with another type of perspective. Help you campaign, help you get your confidence together. How you guys doing? As always, if you can see me, press one, and if you can hear me, press two. You can see me, press one, and you can see me, press two. When you come in the chat, say what's up, man. I want to say hi to some people today. Let me put you on the screen, so I can acknowledge you and yours, because this thing don't happen without you, right? So who we got so far, man? Let me see who we got in the chat. Hello, Sheila. How are you? How's the family? How's your New Year's going? Money in the ghetto. I like that. I like that. That's hard. Get that paper, man. All right. What's your name say? Whole Magic? I like that. Okay. What's up, baby? What's happening? What to do? All right. Michelle Monica, first time watching. Man, I hope you stay, love. Today I'm a cook today. I hope you stay. You know what I'm saying? This is Coin Gang Ministries and our cooks over here. All right, well, who we got? Who else we got? Who else we got? Danny Nails, what's up? What's up? What up? What up? What up? DJ, what it do? How's the family? John Jones, what it do? What's happening? The Red House. All right, home okay. Who else we got in the chat? Big Dog, what's up with it? What's up with it? Today I'm talking about divine masculinity, but with a twist though. You know how we do over here. Everything is with a twist, and we go above the neck with our information. All right. Some more shout outs. What it do? Mecca, Mecca. You know what I'm saying? What's happening? What it do? Hey, today I'm a cook. Today I'm gonna give you another perspective, because it seems as though that guys and girls are going like this right now. And we need to figure out why guys and girls are going like this. How does two people that have been on the planet millions of years, how come they can't get along now? How come it's very difficult to be in relationships? What exactly is going on? And that's what I'm going to talk about today. But I do need your help. I do need you to keep the engagement up. You keep the engagement up by talking, commenting, whether you agree or disagree, also liking the video and sharing the video. All right. Liking the video and sharing the video. Isn't today Valentine's Day? So you should be with your mates. Yes. All right. So if you're with your mate, this is perfect, because now I'm gonna give you guys something to sit with, and we're gonna go above the neck, because that's where the magic happens. So let me get into my thing. If this is your first time here, this is Coin Gang Ministries. This is a heaven on earth ministry. What that means is we don't believe that we have to die to go to heaven. We want our heaven now. We want our heaven in our marriages, in our relationships, in our family endeavors, in our business affairs, in our education. Every space in life, we should have heaven, right? This is an abundant universe. The universe is working in our favor. Water was already here. Watermelons, apples, grapes was already here upon arrival. So the universe is working in our favor. We are not cursed people. We are blessed people. All right. We also believe over here that the number one investment that you can make is into the accountability business. When you make investments in accountability business, there is a ROI. A ROI means a return on investment. All right. Over here, we are in the me business, not necessarily the we business. But when we invest in the me business, by proxy, the we gets better. All right. Today, we're talking about the natural state of human beings. We're going to talk about the human experiment. We're going to talk about the power of a square. You're going to love that, because when I show you the power of squares, it's definitely going to change your perspective, and you're going to understand why you may even talk the way that you talk. We're also going to talk about the new America. But before I get started, You see the Cash App there? That's for a reason, because it keeps me hype and charged. I love when that sound goes off. It makes me get into my bag. It opens up something, because this is Coin Gang Ministry. So when that Cash App goes ring, 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 it does something to me. I bust out and the spirit starts to hit me. So when I spit that fire, you go ahead and you put something in there, because the Cash App is not a donation. It's a payment for game. Where do I want to start? We believe the world that we're living in, the world that we know, is the natural world. We believe that it always been like this, right? We wake up and we're born and we repeat things. We say things like masculinity and femininity. No one's ever pauses to say, well, what does that even mean and where does it come from? We think the world that we're living has always been like this. We think the things that we're doing, people have always done. And that's not true. Do you know that the last 50 years, the last 60 years, 70 years, the last 70 years is what you're experiencing. Prior to that, the world wasn't doing some of the things that we're doing. Ancient people weren't walking around saying masculinity and femininity. We actually believe that masculinity and femininity is a hormone. We actually believe that femininity and masculinity is a hormone that the body is producing. We don't know that masculinity and femininity come out of squares. And I'll show you that what I mean. We don't actually know the natural state of man and woman. The natural state of man and woman is very, very primal. We think things are natural. We think that leadership is natural to a male. It's not. Reason and logic, it is not. Those are schools of thought that oftentimes comes from higher learning. And in ancient times, you had to be able to be a well-to-do person to deal with abstract thought. Most of the time, people are in the peasantry class and they have peasantry information. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to talk to you about the natural state of mankind and what happens when we tap into these squares. So these people will have you believe that leadership is natural to man, that a male is born a natural leader. Really? And logic. You ever heard the term? Press 1 in the chat if you ever heard someone say men are naturally logical. If you've heard that before, press 1 in the chat. I want to see, has anybody ever heard this? If you've ever heard that men are logical, press 1 in the chat. Press 1 in the chat if you've ever heard that men are logical. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever asked what's logic? What does that mean? That men are logical. What does that mean? Let's see. I want to go to logic real quick. Did you know there's laws of logic? So what a person is saying is this right here is naturally man. This is how a natural, a regular, degular man thinks. Let me take this down for a second so you can see. Is this what people are saying? That by nature, this is how man thinks by nature? Associative, diminutive. Did you know there was laws of logic? So when you are saying that man is by nature, any male, no matter where he's from Compton, from Florida, from Afghanistan, you're saying this is how his mind does? This is what is on it? Really? And I'm going to show you why you think the way you do, where that comes from. But this is what you're saying. You're saying that the average male born thinks like this. Really? So look at this definition. You're saying that by nature, that the male thinks like this. By nature, Man is a leader? Because a woman gets with a man, I want him to lead. Leading is a skill set. What does leadership mean? The action of leading a group of people or an organization. Do you know leadership is synonymous with guidance, direction, control, management, superintendent, supervision? Dictatorship, governorship, governance, administration? Command, rule, power, dominion? Are you saying that the majority of males born on the planet are this right here? Is that what you're going to tell me? I'm going to ask y'all again. What y'all are saying is because of a gender. This is the natural, meaning that you don't have a choice in the matter. Kind of how you don't have a choice in going to the bathroom. You have a choice when you go, but you can't do anything about that. So you're saying that when a boy is born, this is on his mind? Interesting. Okay. All right. Reason. That doesn't look too good. We can't do that. But do you know when you talk about logic and reason, do you know they come from somewhere? You saying that the average male on the planet has read this right here? The laws of thought? Is that what y'all saying? Because I'm listening to influencers and I'm listening to think tanks and I'm listening to a plethora of YouTube videos talk about the nature of man and woman, that the nature of a woman is to be submissive and the nature of man is to lead over her. But then when I dig into the books, that's not so. Because explain to me this: the majority of men on the planet are being led by other men. The majority of guys, males on the planet, have to go to the military to find out how to govern themselves. And they have someone yelling in their face. Males get jumped in for protection. That's not natural leadership. In fact, leadership is not a natural trait. Primal is the natural trait of man. Laughter, no one had to teach you that. Anger, no one had to teach you that. To use the bathroom, no one had to teach you that. There's biological functions that are happening inside of you that without your consent are working. That is what's natural. A woman in Afghanistan, a woman in Kenya, a woman in China, a woman in Japan, they all get a menstrual cycle, whether they like it or not. That's natural. Everything else is social conditioning. What do you mean by that, Ken? I'm going to skip right to it. Let's talk about the power of squares. Square. This square right here has dominated the whole world for the last 2,000 years. This square, right? The information from squares develops civilizations, okay? Once you get input from a square, you're no longer natural. You are artificial because your natural state is primal. Your natural state as a human being is the same as the rest of nature. Squares is what develops males to men and females to women. Let me say that again. It's the square that develops a male, which is an animal, to man, which is an evolution, okay? The square develops the female, which is an animal, to a woman, which is an evolution. You see, a shark can be a male and a female, but it cannot be man or woman. A lion and a tiger can be male and female, but it cannot be man and woman, because man and woman is not evolution, it's involution. Squares. You get all of your information from squares. Any more squares? The Quran. The Quran has over 1 billion followers. What do these squares do? They change the nature of the animal and bring it to a higher level. We're going to have church today. Ain't it Sunday? We're going to have church today. The power of squares. What men and women think about each other come from squares. They are not natural to each other. Or what men think of women and what women think of men. What a man's role is, what a woman's role is, comes out of squares. Now, depending on the society you live in, the square is going to be different. But this is where we learn what we learn. This has not been like this since the beginning of time. It depends on where you live and what square you're getting input from. Bible, Quran. Another square. This square right here changed what we call human beings forever. This is one of the original TVs right here. This square right here has probably had more influence over people than this square right here. This square for a long time destroyed societies and built other ones. Once a human looks inside of this square, they are not natural anymore. They are artificial. They are something else. Their primal self has changed into another thing. We learn about the whole world from the square. Okay? Very, very, very important. We've been watching this square our entire lives. You understand? Our entire lives. We've been advertised and marketed to. We've been told what to think. The way that we see the world is through these squares. You don't know what is a natural woman and what is a natural man because we've been raised with the square. So look at this square. This square is so powerful that it told you that human beings fell because of original sin. That's how powerful this square is. Look at this square. This square reinforced what this square said. This square right here taught people what the Joneses are and how they should live. And everybody is copying what they see from this square. This is one of the original TVs, right? Let me tell you how powerful the square is. This is Sumerian. The moment that we start putting input on squares, we are no longer natural anymore because it's this input that comes out of a square that tells us how to behave. What y'all think of women is from squares. What y'all think of men is from squares. The moment you look into the square, you are programmed. Do you understand? We have been putting input on squares for thousands of years. The only natural people on the planet are those that have not looked inside of the square. Those that are tribes that are uncontacted. Once you hand them the square, they are no longer natural. What you think is natural is not. Let me tell you what's natural in a woman. A menstrual cycle. Nipples are natural. Do you know how? Do you know how we know? Because women from all over the world have the same meat suit design, no matter what. Males, you know what's natural to them? When they grow facial hair. Do you know how we know? Because it happens in Asia. It happens in Africa. All right. It happens all over the world. That's natural. What y'all say is natural isn't. What y'all say is natural is social engineering created by whatever ruling class or whatever media that a person lives in. Okay? All you have to do is get people to look inside of the square and you can change their nature. Okay? You understand? Squares. So let me run through it again. The Bible. If people never had this, they wouldn't even have a concept of a deity. Right? People get their gender roles from this square. This square is that powerful that is telling people how to behave. Right? So much so that we have technology now, and technology is telling us to do something different. And we're not even believing our eyes. We are saying that this square created 2,000 years ago should still have dominion over people's behavior now. This square was created and backs up this square. This square right here is for selling things. This square right here puts people in their place because it creates a society that is defined by who can purchase more things and better things. Squares. We should have a lot of likes on this video, y'all. We should have a lot of shares on this video. Okay. Look, input printed on a Sumerian tablet. Squares. You see? Power of squares. Billboard. Look at that square. That square is telling you to do something. Do you understand? Input put on squares tells people how to behave. So again, what you think is natural is not natural. You haven't been natural since you came out of your mother's womb. Because immediately they put a square in your face. Now, depending on where you live, your behavior is determined by the square that you look into. This square right here has took the place of this square. This was the square that we got all of our information from. It replaced this square. This square right here told you what to do with your family. This square right here told you what to do in your marriage. And it was replaced by this square. This square was replaced by these squares. Because usually you couldn't put this square in your pocket. All right. You couldn't put this square in your pocket. You can travel with this square right here. Not only what makes this square powerful is the software on the square. This square allows people to have the same experience at one time because the software that comes on these squares has a share button. You understand? The software on these allows people thousands of miles away to share the same experience at one time. All right. So right now, these squares right here are so powerful that people are determining their reality based off what they see from these squares. These squares have people looking into them, and based on what they see on these squares, they are making a determination on human behavior, even though these squares have things on them called algorithms. The algorithm basically creates what people see. The algorithm. So on your square, you're having a totally different experience than someone else on their square. On their square, they might be consuming, let's say, police brutality videos. And based off what they see from that square, they're going to say, this is what the world looks like, right? You might be consuming finance on your square. And depending on the videos that you watch, your algorithm is going to recommend certain things for you. So you are having an experience that you think is natural, but it's not though. It's the power of squares. Square, Bible, Quran, TV, Sumerian tablet, billboard telling you what to do. When you look at that, you don't turn that off in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind does not turn that off. Another square, your phone. Another square, the tablet. Square. You know how many people the newspaper programmed? The newspaper is a square. Again, input on squares creates the human reality. Your natural self is primal. Your natural self is connected to nature. When you look in the squares, it takes you away from nature. Your natural self is the self that you're ashamed of. This is why we create religions and create culture to civilize the primal instinct in us. Our natural smell is not perfume. We wear deodorants and perfume to cover those odors up. We get haircuts and put makeup on our face. That is not the way we naturally look. None of us. This is not the natural way of life. You can't have a natural way of life when you deal with squares, because the input on the square changes the nature of what we call male and female, right? It deals with programming. So when you say what a man is and what a woman is, you're getting that from squares. That's how powerful a square is. This is our whole society is built on squares. Have you ever heard the term stand on your square? Have you ever heard that? Why? Because the input on the square is going to tell you what to do. Y'all actually believe that by nature, that means you have no choice in the matter. You're going to be that regardless. You believe by nature that a male is a leader. And females are disappointed when they get with a guy and he doesn't lead. Because where would she think that that's his nature? A square told her that. Where would she think this is a male's natural thing to do? The Quran told her that. Where would a guy think that this thing that a woman is just soft and submissive, where would he think that? From this. Because that is not what women from around the world are. You know why? Because the world is a very hard and cruel place. So that kind of behavior will actually get you killed and ate by things. You could only get to a certain period of human experiment when you achieve your hierarchy of needs. When your hierarchy of needs in order, you can't are not in order. You can't rest in your femininity. You'll starve to death. Do you notice that everybody around the world works, even the children? But in America, we do other things because we have different type of squares. Your great grandparents, they got their input out of this square. Anybody know what this is? Look at these squares. Anybody know what this is? Who wants to give it a shot? Who knows what is this? What is this right here? Anybody want to give it a shot? Anybody know what this little thingy, this square thingy is? Anybody? I see I got some people in my age bracket in the building. Yeah, man. This is Atari, man. This is Atari. Right? Did you see? Information on squares change human beings. What you think is reality is not. What you think is real and fake come out of squares. Remember, the brain can't differentiate what's real and what's not. This is how you can go to a movie and cry. Squares. Squares. Y'all see my point when I'm talking about the square? And notice how squares have changed. Look at this, man. This is Sumerian with information put on it for a specific reason. It went from this square to this square. All of it with input on it. All of it changing the way that people think about the world. The power of the square. Again, what you think is natural is not. What is natural is what you come to the earth with. But you don't leave with what's natural when you die. You leave with a bunch of beliefs and ideals that come out of squares. And then you die in a square. They put you right in a box. You know? Square. Look how squares change. Right? It's all a square though. This is programming. The purpose of a square is to program. That is it. It is something about those 90-degree angles. Once human beings look inside of it, they change. If you want to program a human, you have to put it in a square. There's a new term floating around called high value man that did not exist commercially for everybody 2 years ago. Someone said it in a square and everybody's repeating it. Statistics get repeated in squares and then everybody takes it and runs with it. Right? Square. The power of the square. When you put information on this, it programs human beings. And that program changes the behavior of people. And then they go out into the world based on the programming from their squares. Depending on where you live and your income bracket, your square is different. Those that have and those that don't are based on the input of the square that they have at their disposal. Okay? This device right here didn't really get to take all the way off in the States. It's called Neo Geo. It was competing with Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. But again, how come they're not building this shit in triangles? They're still following the same ancient format of this. Because to program men and women, you need to put it in a square. Square, the Bible. Square, the Quran. Square, the TV. Why not make a triangle television? Look at the format. Bible. People actually believe, seriously, that a guy was in a fish's mouth for 3 days and didn't suffocate and didn't die, and the acid from the fish didn't do anything for him. They believed that a guy was floating on a boat and animals was on the boat, predators, and him and his family, nothing happened to him. That's how powerful the square is, right? Despite all the inconsistencies from the square, things that don't make sense, things that are things that are having you go against your regular reason on a day-to-day, you still believe it. Why? Because it came out of the square. If it was delivered to you in another way, you wouldn't have the relationship you have to it. Square. There's a power to square, man. Masculinity and femininity come from the square. They don't come from the animal kingdom, and they are not primal. Square. The iPod. The iPod the iPod basically was the segue for people to have really their own like experience, because it was the rise of the headphone culture after this, where people were making investments in headphones. So now people are on the buses and on the trains not talking to each other, right? It was durable. You could move around and the song didn't skip. See, if you had a CD player or a Discman, the CD would jump, the CD would skip, right? This was the rise of, after this, file sharing. The drive-through movie theater. The drive-through movie theater is what programmed baby boomers, and we're going to get into that in a second. Do you guys see the power of the square? Your whole entire belief system, whatever is in your subconscious mind, you have got it from a square. Whether that was a book, whether that was television, whether that was from a projector, what you think the world is, it really isn't. You only see it like that is because it's from the square. So what you call masculinity, where does that come from? The square. But I want to show you how profound the square is, because we usually learn in pictures, right? We learn in pictures and we learn through storytelling. I'm going to bring something on the screen, and maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't seen it. But there was a person that really defined what I'm saying in terms of the square and how it changes the nature of us. Brilliant filmmaker. This is for all my nerds out there. I'm going to make my screen big. This is Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. This really hammers home the point of the square. Now, just pay attention to what's going to happen. I turned the volume down because there's copyrights. All right. Make sure. Okay. So this is, now understand, in Western culture, they believe that the dawn of man is from primates. We come from primates. That's what Western archaeology and paleontology and the scientists say, right? Okay, cool. Until people start to disprove their theories, this is what we go by. But just side note, right? So I'm keeping the volume down because it has music in there. All right. But what you're about to see is what the square does. And Stanley Kubrick was brilliant in his portrayal of the square and what it does. Now, what they're looking at is a monolith, right? All of a sudden they wake up and this long monolith is just there. right? They never seen anything like this, right? So this is Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey. I'm not playing the volume because I got the volume turned off because it has copywritten music in it. All right. But just pay attention, because what happens after they experience this square right here? And then you could take it back to where I was showing you the pictures of the square. All right. Believe it or not, we act the same way over the square. You come through with the new phone, everyone's like, oh shit, what's that? You come through with the new tablet or PS5, everybody acts the same way. You might say, oh man, we don't come from monkeys, but how come you act the same way when someone pulls up with a new square? Whoever has the new square is popping. Right? Just a few minutes. This is Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. And this right here really, really hammers my point when I'm talking about the square and what it does to us, because we think everything is just natural. We have no clue that we are just programmed, myself included. What I think is important, what I think is real, comes from a square. Right? Some type of square, somebody's book, somebody's documentary. I'm far away from my natural state. Now watch what happens. Remember, so prior to them seeing that, they had a conflict with another tribe, right? Another tribe of primates. Now watch. Remember, they just seen the square, okay? They seen the monolith. And keep in mind of the pictures that I shown you. Keep in mind the pictures that I shown you. Remember, once you look inside the square, you are no longer natural. You actually start to do different things. You start to move different. Your program is different. Now pay attention what it starts to do. What is it doing? And this is after the experience of the square. Real deep concept when he introduced the monolith, right? And this is how you are after you engage with your square. You have a little bit of curiousness, right? Start asking different questions. You start to do more. Family and friends see you're talking different. This, the funny thing is you act just like this when you get the square. When you get your iPhone, you think you're popping. Right? You get your new book, you calling people sheep, right? Look, this is all after he got the square. Now he's making tools because of that monolith. They was not doing that before, just like you weren't doing what you were doing before you got the square. Whether your square was the Bible, or whether your square was the Quran, or whether your square was the TV, now it's tool making. It wasn't doing that before. You are watching me through a square. It's a wrap now, because this thing has received input. So remember this, the square represents hardware. What's on the square represents software. Your phone is hardware. The apps on your phone are software. It's the software that you're engaging with on the phone. The Bible is hardware. What's in it is software. The Quran is hardware. What's in it is software. Now these things are about to give those other things the business based off the software that it got from the hardware. So when you're talking about, oh, masculinity, femininity, the woman is submissive, that's all software you're talking about. You weren't born like that. And the world hasn't always looked like that. Look, see, it's beating the hell out the, right? Before, they wouldn't fight each other. But this thing now is, look, he killing them because he was downloaded with something. All right. Y'all got me? This is from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. All right. And I understand how our brains learn. So even though I was showing you the square, you needed to actually see it move. All right. You needed to see it move. Why did you need to see it move? Because these original squares, you couldn't see anything move. Right? So this most likely was your original square that programmed you. But the thing about this square, you don't see it move. Nothing in it moves. So you're still in a state of skepticism. Nothing moves in the square. This square right here made things move. This square right here had ability to tap into your emotions. It made you cry. It made you identify with people that you don't even know. So you're not able, before you was able to, you needed a telescope to look in the cosmos to look at stars. This square gave you the ability and the opportunity to look at stars. This created stars for you to the point where you're not even into astrology. You don't even look up to the heavens and star constellations. No, what you do is you look through this square right here, and Cardi B and Tom Brady and Michael Jordan, they are your stars. You see? Old Sumerian tablet, it doesn't move. This moves. This changed everything. And now this square, and these squares are programming human beings to the point where now guys and girls can't even get along because a new world is upon us because of the new square. Now, mind you, listen to this. This square was for men. This square is for women. And this square has more power than this square. This is not my belief. This square is opening up ideals. This square is allowing people to tap into information that was forbidden and taboo. Things that are of different cultures. This square is introducing tolerance and empathy. And now you can't say the things that you used to say to people. You can't call people derogatory names. All from this square. This square has even introduced new words like gaslighting, right? Toxic masculinity got popular on this square. Intersectionality is popular on this square, not this square. All the people that are caught up in this square are going to be extinct because this square represents the Pisces era, the Pisces age, a 25,000 year period, I believe. This square represents Aquarius. And from here, you have this too, right? But this square is shaping human beings differently, just like you've seen those gorillas looking at that monument, that monolith from Stanley Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. You are programmed by the squares. Now, it's men that are hanging on for dear life in the world because this square does not have the programming power that it once did. This square gave males privileges that they never earned. They was born, and this square was the dominant square programming people. And it gave males the ability to govern and rule over females without even earning it. Because all he had to do was say the input from this square is the reason she should be submissive. But he didn't earn it. It's not his story. It's a story. But this square built a civilization called America, or Western culture, Australia, Canada, right? This square. But this square is hanging on for dear life. And everybody that subscribes to this is on their way out, because Generation Z and their children will have no use for this square right here. This square right here is what this square was 2,000 years ago. Okay? This square right here is creating what the world looks like for the next 1,500 to 2,000 years, to the point that anyone follows this square is going to be a secret subculture. They will not be the dominant culture, because Generation Z has no use for the concepts coming out of this square right here. It is intolerant of their way of life and does not match the mindset that they want to live in, because Generation Z, even parts of the millennial generation, we get our information from here. Y'all want to watch a video? But you guys get it when I'm talking about the power of squares. Now I want to show you from a square the power of media, right? I'm going to show you where you get your concepts from. And I'm also going to show you that there are influencers right now trying to draw on nostalgia to recreate a world that doesn't even exist anymore. They are hanging on for dear life because the male, listen to me, because of this square right here, the male never had to adapt, because the market, the job market supported males. The infrastructure supported males. Everybody had to adjust except the male, right? So now you see the female in society that is governed by this square is actually in some places outpacing the male. The female is adapting. The male is trying to hang on to a world that don't exist no more at all. Trying to hang on to this world, to this world, to this world, to this world. But these are all worlds of Pisces. The only male that's going to survive is the male that can adapt, right? It is a world where people are playing with their gender. It is a same-sex world, whether you agree or not. It is a world where women want partnerships instead of being submissive, right? And it's interesting that you have influencers now still trying to pull from here to tell a woman where her place is. But she has this. I'm going to play a video for us. But before I play the video, I want to stay in the spirit of game. So you make sure, matter of fact, everybody with a 20 piece, go ahead and hit the Cash App. 5 people, go ahead and drop a dub in the Cash App for the amazing game, because now I already know what you're going to do. You're going to walk around and say, we all get our information from squares, and you're not going to give me the credit. So I already know this. So since you're going to do that, you might as well pay a nigga. So go ahead and pay me. Go ahead and give me the dub for the game. Nah, let me go. Now, this is going to be an interesting display of socially engineering, because y'all actually believe that men and women have always been like this. The last 70 years have pretty much set the tone for every single thing that you think. Y'all ready for a video? If you haven't liked the video yet, you should. And if you haven't shared the video, what are you waiting for? Let's get into the video. And you'll see what I mean by how powerful the square is, right? And what you think is natural, especially to a woman. No, it ain't, man. They created this shit in media. And the human can be programmed at any given time. Let's get into it.
Oh, I love the 60s. What was so wonderful about the 60s? The 60s, we had some of the most prominent, wonderful people in the world killed. We had Vietnam. What was so wonderful? You got to smoke grass? What was so wonderful about the 60s? 60s were good for America. Some of the pressure cooker that existed, that conformity was dangerous. That Cold War conformity, the 60s really started to question these things. The 60s said you can be anything you want to be. You can go out and have free sex, you can go out and have free drugs, you can go out and not have to fight battles and stay free people. You can have free.
I certainly think there were excesses in the 60s. Now, if America thought we could get out of racism in a nice, measured way, could overturn segregation, and without some excesses, then I think it underestimated the force and effect of segregation.
People have been lied to about everything. All right, we've been lied to about everything, we're going to have to test everything, and we did some pretty stupid things.
I took
A hit of Osley White Lightning acid, and I became an instant hippie. Instantly, because of that acid.
these kids got nothing to do but run around the streets and then go home and have a lot of free love and smoke dope. Here I am, scratching my head, wondering how I'm going to pay both the light bill and the gas bill this month. Because I've got 4 kids. All you can do is walk around the street in sandals. They would always say, go slow and do it decorously.
There was always this sense of great politeness and decorousness, and you must understand that we felt dropping carpet bombings on people was not very decorous.
I was at Wisconsin when some students bombed one of the buildings, and I said, let's go down to the student union, and I will bet you $50 that within 5 minutes we will be able to find someone who will argue that that kid deserved to die because he was in that building. And I won that $50.
We meant to be intolerable.
Now pay attention, y'all.
And the American people were intolerable to us, and we were in opposition to them, and we meant to annoy them, and we meant to get them angry, and we meant.
Pay attention, because you're going to see the behavior that people do now is the result of the 60s of people trying to create another box. All right?
To confront them.
We should have done more. We should have valued the time. There were a lot of mistakes made that, if we'd known what we were doing, we wouldn't have made them.
The 60s will never level out. Maybe it's just that in every 60s decade, 18th century, 19th century, 20th century, we have to go through some crisis like this. But there was certainly we had as a time, and we're still trying to figure out what it was all about.
The 1960s was the most tumultuous, confusing, and controversial decade of the 20th century. It still inspires passionate debate. But there's no debate about this. The 1960s was an era of rebellion. Most of those who rebelled were young. And although they were a minority of their generation, their numbers were sufficient. Their beliefs so strong, and their behavior so challenging that many mainstream Americans saw them as a significant threat to the nation's morals, manners, and values. The result was a period of almost continuous conflict.
All right, hold on. What were they doing? right? Because what they did has an effect on the counterculture and pushback that people are doing now. What were they doing? Changing the box, right? They were trying to change this. They were trying to unlearn the software they got from the box, right? And the people that were upset about it were people that needed them to fit in this, because as long as they fit in this box, it kept the status quo and it kept society in order, right? They were using different boxes. All right.
Making sense of all this is very much a matter of understanding who rebelled, what triggered their rebellions, how the rest of the country reacted to them, and what happened to America as a result. These young people didn't suddenly begin to rebel at the stroke of midnight on January 1st, 1960. The seeds of the 60s were planted earlier. And the first of these seeds was an enormous increase in the American birth rate that began in 1946, known as the baby boom. By the 60s, their sheer numbers, 76 million in all, would give this generation unprecedented power and influence.
Those of us who brought the baby boom into being, the returning World War II veterans, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. I mean, we really didn't know. We all came home and we all had children. There was no advice, really. Dr. Spock had a book out, but we didn't know anything about child rearing. In other words, let me try to say it this way. There were certain things that you just did.
Hold on. So the old man is telling y'all that when they came home for the war, they had no clue on what they were doing. There was no blueprint for child rearing, right? So that demystifies anything that you think of how the world always was. Because the people coming home from that war, World War II, just started having babies. There was no blueprint. So if they were saying this in 1950, that's letting you know in 1750, 1650, 1550, 1450, 1350, the world wasn't what you think it is. The world wasn't what you think it is. He just told you right there. This is all based on programming.
Today is a high point in the romance of Bob and Mary. For them, the future looks bright.
We didn't know anything about relationships, communication between husband and wife. There was very little communication. Children, child rearing, how do you raise children? No one knew. In other words, it was supposed just to happen.
Okay.
George Leonard and other members of his generation may not have known how to raise their children, but they did know that they wanted to protect them from the tough times they had experienced.
The parents of the 1950s were, I think, the most unusual generation of the 20th century. These are the people who had grown up in the Depression. They had experienced real tough times when they were children and when they were teenagers. And then World War II hit, as many of them were just reaching adulthood, and they had the trauma of the war. And then after all that, they reached the 1950s at a time when the U.S. was tremendously prosperous, when the economy was booming as we've never seen it before. And I think they reacted to that prosperity, and I think they reacted strongly to all of the trauma of the Depression and the war by turning inward a bit. By
everything you're about to hear, let me just say it. Let me put the face to the name. A lot of red pill, the Kevin Samuels, those in the manosphere, what they call patriarchy, they are literally talking about this period right here. Many people not even born yet, right? But when a 25-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old talks about old school women, he's talking about women from this period whom he didn't even date. because of the things that came out of the box. They actually think that this was the way that the world was. But this comes from they learned, they were socially engineered to be this image right here. And you'll see this. But you have people that are hella out of season. They are literally trying to plug people back into a world that doesn't exist. And it only exists because of commercials. This wasn't how the world was. Remember, these people came back from the war when the economy was popping. Now you have washer and dryers. You have the advent of microwaves. The beauty industry in terms of makeup is on the rise. Certain things that it existed hadn't existed. They had a Great Depression, World War I, World War II. Human beings at this time didn't have their hierarchy of needs in order. The world was a struggle. Now what people are experiencing for the first time in human history, a national comfort. And even Black households copy this because the images that they seen on early TVs were of middle-class whites, and Black people put their families in that image as well.
And marrying young by emphasizing home and family, as if that was something they couldn't get back in the 30s and 40s and now valued all the more.
And this is Levittown. Here you can own your own home, complete with its own refrigerator, television set, and clothes dryer. You can raise your children far from the city's dirt, crowding and crime, in comfort and safety.
Growing up in the suburbs, nearly 70% of white middle-class baby boomers spent their childhoods in these totally new communities. For these young people and their older brothers and sisters, this environment would have an enormous impact on how they would behave in the 60s.
It was a perfect setting in which the youth culture, in a certain sense, could blossom. Life in the suburbs was organized around the kids again. They were the center of attention, endless round of Little League games and PTA meetings, etc. So it was in the suburbs, in a certain sense, that this message about the importance and the uniqueness and the generational potency associated with these kids, I think, was delivered with real force.
Do y'all hear that? And that's what our culture is now. This was the first time ever in recorded history where children are at the center of everything. It's all about the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids, the kids. It was not like that before. This is what I mean. This is a production. This is a production, man. Just because it's normal don't mean it's always been like that. And this is not natural. This is a social engineering of human beings. The creation of the suburbs. This is the American experiment, the human experiment, put together by psychologists and sociologists and scientists. Also, you also have in America big European immigration. Okay, so the Irish, the Polish, the Russians, the Armenians, this was how they became white. They were being taught this is white, right? Blacks were taught this is white. This was the standard of how everyone wanted their life to look. And you have people in the digital age trying to plug you back into a world that doesn't exist.
In the average American family today, children are the object of more concentrated thought and concern than the young of any previous generation. For out of an increasing understanding of child psychology has come an awareness that children are real people with individual personalities which must be respected and encouraged.
This was a distinctly new way to be raised in the world. And it allowed for a whole generation that I suppose we would now call spoiled kids, which from another point of view simply meant kids who had very high expectations in life with respect to freedom and happiness. They thought life was about being free and about being happy. And they carried those expectations forward into...
Do people think that now? Don't people think that now? That is the culture now, right? That is the culture now, right? And where are people really, really experiencing that. Here. They're being told they can be anything and have anything from here. Do you really think they're going back to here? Or here? Or here? Good luck with that.
High school and into college, and brought with them a kind of a level of expectation that was simply unprecedented in, I would say, in world history.
These kids felt no worries about money. But their parents grew up at a time when insecurity was a fact of life and deprivation a daily experience. They could never quite convince themselves their escape from poverty was permanent.
We found out in the 50s that if you got up in the morning and went to work and did a good day's work, that things got better. You got promoted or you got more money. You were able to buy furniture. You could have more children. The children could have better clothes, and life just improved. We knew it was because you went to work. But I'm not sure our children realized that. They saw simply that the clothes got better, the house got bigger, the neighborhood got nicer. And I have a strong suspicion that what happened in the late 60s was that the kids who rebelled took it for granted that life would improve automatically.
Now here's a major seed of the 60s. Because of their profoundly different life experiences, kids had trouble understanding why their fathers worked so hard.
Y'all hear that? Mind you, this is what, 60 years ago? 60 years ago.
The way many of them saw it, their fathers were engaging in the single-minded pursuit of material comforts.
My dad was always above board in all his business dealings. But I would say money and getting ahead and making a lot of bucks was his goal. And I think what it was Dad meant well. Dad wanted to love us, but Dad was so busy at work. He would work till 2, 3 in the morning doing artwork for the business. He'd get up early and be gone. I hardly ever saw him.
Everything young boys saw at home and on TV told them that if they did as they were supposed to, they would be, quote, lucky enough to follow in their father's footsteps.
The Cub Scout program helps the boys' adjustment both to the family and to the group.
Hey, these old documentaries, what you're seeing here, this is what they actually showed at school. They were teaching you how to be a boy. They were teaching girls how to be a girl. Again, they were looking through squares to be socialized. There were no so-called societal roles of people before it started coming out of the input of square. Everybody was more agricultural and rural, and everyone minded their business. You didn't know what other people did in their household. But this is the rise of media. So they are setting the tone for behavior. People, you didn't behave what you call naturally. You're being shown input software from the square, which is hardware, and is downloaded on you. And that is how you have national and cultural behavior. Remember, the culture, the root word, or if you chop half of that off, is cult.
This son of yours has been fighting again. Look at this shirt. Can I tell you about it, Pop? Look, he's proud of it. Please, Pop.
Not now, Jerry. I'm tired.
Kelly said you didn't have the guts to stand up for yourself, so I took a poke at him. That was all right, whatever, Mike.
What TV showed you was a world in which men were essentially impotent.
Didn't have any right to say that about you, did he, Pop? Go to your room and get a decent shirt. This minute. Did he, Pop?
There were no chance for risk. There was no place for excitement. There was no place for no challenges being offered whatsoever. And the other kind of show you could watch were the Westerns, which showed what a real man could do, measuring himself against other men, especially with a gun. And I think that anybody who was a red-blooded American boy in the 1950s knew that they wanted to be more like Matt Dillon, or more like the paid gunfighter in Have Gun Will Travel, than they wanted to be Beaver Cleaver's father.
Isn't it wonderful how this Russia does all these heavy things?
And what did girls feel was in store for them?
Uh-oh, here we go.
A life just like their mothers.
Oh.
Judy, it wasn't as bad as all that here. Sorry, Mother. I was just thinking. About what? Well, you know, thinking how awful worse they used to be for you. Before you had the electric water heater and the washer. So now I add the pectin.
Educational films like this one reflect society's belief that women could find fulfillment only as housewives and mothers.
Now I add.
Oh. Oh. Pay close attention to your influencers. They are literally trying to create nostalgia. Now, in terms of a charismatic figure will always bring up nostalgia, right? Because nostalgia will always appeal to a people that have lost their voice in society. Because one thing that's constant about life is change. Nostalgia is what Hitler used as well. Nostalgia is a very strategic way of talking to large bodies of people. The good old days, right? But the good old days never come back. It's just a strategy that can be used to gain followers, right? So you have influencers or red pill leaders, right? Or speakers. Literally, what the time period they are speaking of is not the 90s. It is not the 80s. It is not the 70s. It is this time period right here. Because this is the time period where, because it's also the rise of the makeup industry, right? This is the time period where housewives would have a face full of makeup and be home cooking all day. Men had just came home from the war, and women were bare feet and pregnant all the damn time from this period right here. But there's another thing going on, and you can use Edward Barnet's propaganda for a source as well, is the rise of products like pots and pans and washing machines and things to sell to the housewife. But to do that, you need a square in the home. So before it was a radio, newspaper, but the new way to push product is the television. The housewife was watching the television. You see, all this shit has everything to do with money. And but people were not like this 200 years ago. They're being socialized into this world. And your influencers now, instead of pushing you to where the future is going, which is STEM, right? Which is your website is your primary way to do business, right? Learning different languages, app development, and coding. No. They are talking about and pushing you into a world that does not exist. Why? Because let's just say the modern male in particular is having a struggle fitting into society. Why? Because the job market doesn't support him. There was a time where the male was born and there were jobs that support him. There was theology that supported him. Now a human being must carve out their own lane. The society doesn't support you. Everything flips around. You can't work retail because that spot is taken by a gay dude, right? You can't say the things you said before because there's PC culture. You have to be tolerant and you have to show empathy now, whether you like it or not, or you're going to die. You're going to starve. So the influencers now are saying, women, you better get like this or you're going to die alone. And the women are actually going for it because their base is still this. However, they're using this. If this is your new square, then community looks different, first of all. And you can't tell someone that's getting their information from here that they're going to die alone. First off, we all die alone. Right? That's number one. But you can't tell someone as a millennial or a Gen Z that kind of thing. You can't create scarcity in their life like that because people have friends around from all around the world because of this. People are having different relationship dynamics. The world of this is gone, but there is traces of people trying to hang on for dear life, especially if they're over 50. Why? Because they don't fit into this square right here. They fit into this one. They fit into this one, right? These squares, you didn't have to do any work. All you had to do was just have balls. You didn't have to create a world. There was a world created for you, and all you had to do was stay on code. All right? Let's keep it going. Let me scale it back just a little bit. She said something, they said something real interesting. Look, peep it.
How awful worse they used to be for you. Before you had the electric water heater and the washer. So now I add the pectin.
Educational film like this one reflects society's belief that women could find fulfillment only as housewives and mothers.
Now
Only.
I to a full rolling boil again. It won't take long. You like to cook, don't you, Ted? Oh, it's not just liking to cook. It's more. It's accomplishing something. It's me cooking. Me, Susan Douglas. And not just cooking, but we're creating something special. Oh, I wish Miss Holland could talk to you. She could say it so much better than I can. Who's Miss Holland? She's my home economics teacher. Not enough of anyone means soup instead of jelly.
Even girls who were sent to college often majored in what were called the domestic sciences.
Oh, so look. When women went to college for domestic things, it was all good. But now they're getting PhDs in things that are not domestic. Now it's a problem. Now it's a problem. Why? Because the market has opened up for everybody. And America is about individualism, right? You might say, but Ken, other groups of people, their community, not really. Not when they have their kids. Once their kids embrace Americanism, it's all about individualism. Do you know why? It's because historically, people never got to experience individual pursuits. That's what America gives you the opportunity to do. For the first time in human history, do you. You ain't got to do what the tribe wants to do. See, we always talk about the how like tribes is popping. But what if I don't want to cut my face though? What if I don't want to cut my ear though? What if I don't want to be circumcised though? It doesn't matter. You're part of a tribe. Right? That is actually very primitive thinking. Now that women have the opportunity to experience individuality, men can't handle the shit. But society always flips around though. Nothing ever stays the same, ever. There was a time a poor man couldn't own property. There was a time a poor man couldn't invent things. There was things in Europe called feudalistic societies and the divine right of kings. You didn't have the opportunity to do what you do. Things flip around. Now we are experiencing school virtually. Before, everyone used to ride the school bus. Businesses are changing. One thing that is constant in life is change. Can you adapt or not?
Well, there's one nice thing about it happening in class. Here is part of our learning. A moment would be a minor tragedy.
There was a song when I went to college at Smith College, which they don't sing anymore, I know, that had a verse that went something like this. You're sharp as a pinpoint, your grades are really 10 point. You are Dean's Sophia Smith. But when a man wants a kiss kid, he doesn't want a quiz kid. Oh, you can't get a man with your brains, with your brains, with your brains. Oh, you can't get a man with your brains.
Ain't that what they say right now? Man, we don't care about your degrees or you don't money, right? Just be feminine and fit. Ain't that what they say? Ain't that what they say? Now, how old are the people saying that, though? How old are the people that are saying that? And what is the intent? If the intent is to take you to a world that does not exist. That's not the world anymore. Especially with globalization. No.
And it had verses that went on and on. Now, I sang that in 1957 with a sense of how true it was and how funny it was. Now, of course, it makes a shiver run up and down my spine.
I had 4 choices
What was
of
that?
things that I could be when I grew up. I could be a teacher, a nurse, a stewardess, or a secretary.
Do you know when they talk about modern women now, they talk about it without context? How many of you actually had a conversation with your grandmother or your great grandmother? When they talk about modern women, they talk as if modern women had women from back in the day had options. Now, if the white woman is telling you she could only be 4 things, then what could the black woman be? So the black woman, for survival, had to get married. Well, damn. Well, how come when they're talking about old school women and elevating them and romancing about these old black love and blah, blah, how come they don't give context? What were the options? Now, if women were choosing marriage and they still have options, that's different. But how can you actually elevate women from back in the day and all of their necessities had to come through a man? That's disingenuous, but you could only get that off with people that don't read. You could only get that off with people that don't ask questions and people that are having identity problems. Hold on, what the white woman say? I'm glad I'm getting to hear white people talk, because these niggas, boy.
Well, there's one nice thing about it happening in class. Here is part of our learning. A moment would be a minor tragedy.
There was a song when I went to college at Smith College, which they...
No, I want to hear you sing, baby.
It's are really 10 point.
I need to get to the other girl.
Get a man with your brains. And it had verses that went on and on. Now, I sang that in 1957 with a sense of how true it was and how funny it was. Now, of course, it makes a shiver run up and down my spine.
I had 4 choices of things that I could be when I grew up. I could be a teacher.
A teacher. All right. Now, mind you, this is a white woman saying this, right? And the society definitely leaned towards those that were classifying themselves as white. Just so as we're going through this, just think about your nana if your peoples ain't white, right? So it's the total opposite of for your folks, right? And it's interesting that when people talk about the old school, first off, how do 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds tell you about what people was doing in 1925? That is so interesting to me. And these guys talk from a perspective of they actually had the ability to date women. You was born in 1996. Why are you telling me about old school women? How would you know? Old school for you would be 1986. Like, come on, man. But the white woman is telling you, man, she could only be 4 things. Right? or you had to get a husband. This is what I mean, that society was created by males and it favored males, or what they call patriarchy. Bring so-called masculinity back. First off, let's say masculinity was a real thing. You didn't earn it. You didn't create it. You didn't have to compete and go in a room with another man and whoever came out. You was born into a reality that favored you, but it actually did you a disservice because you didn't have the ability. You never had to adjust because society is benefiting you. So now that is leaning in another direction, which societies do. Dudes are upset. You got MGTOW, you got the red pill, you got manosphere, you got all these things fighting to stay alive. But the only thing that's constant is change.
A nurse, a stewardess, or a secretary. I couldn't go into things that dealt with medicine. I couldn't go into law. I couldn't go into the real professions. It was extremely limiting. And of course, the overall goal was to find a husband, get married, have children, and live with a white picket fence.
I used to make little stews for my child, and he used to spit them out and stick them on the wall. But I went on doing it. I don't know why. Dr. Spock. I think Dr. Spock ruined everything. I really do. I mean, he's wonderful in the peace movement. But this whole image of giving your children everything you had, and they have to be satisfied, and they have to be content. And I think we gave them much too much.
Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, starring the entire Nelson family. Here's Ozzie. Here's Harriet.
And here it is, the American family of the 1950s, as it was seen thousands of evenings on TV.
Black people in America thought this was the way that white people live. Even to this day, they think this. Do you know how I know they think this? Is because every time they're talking, they are quick to talk about what other groups of people do, and they never stayed at anyone's house. Where are they getting the images of other groups of people? Is it coming across the ticker on the bottom with Wall Street? Where are they getting these images? From a square, from media, from television, from the phone. They think that this is the way the world is. Even Irish that are coming to this country, Polish, Scots that are coming to this country, they are being socialized into what the American family looks like. This is a creation from the square. This is telling you what to do.
Happy kids, happy father, happy mother. Everyone behaving as they were supposed to.
You know, it's none of my business, but don't you think taking riding lessons is a pretty expensive way to meet a girl?
The message was absolutely unmistakable. This was the way your life should be. And if it wasn't, something must be very wrong.
Everyone watched Ozzie and Harriet and assumed that everyone they knew lived that life. And then they went around pretending that they lived it too. But no one really did. Even Ozzie and Harriet didn't. So on some level, there's been a myth all along. And part of the plague of the 50s was the incredible personal efforts, the incredible pain involved in perpetuating that myth about one's own family, about one's own happiness in that family, about the health of that family.
They saw women as feeling very discontented. They saw husbands feel pressured, harried by the demands of their jobs and families. And they saw children as feeling extremely alienated. So clearly, I think many of the roots of the 60s explosions were planted in the supposedly placid family of the 1950s.
This boy and girl coming home from school look quite content with life. They're looking forward to an important date, dinner at home with the family.
Though they seem artificial today, educational films like this one, which were shown to school children all over America, accurately reflect the attitudes and values of white middle-class society in the 1950s, when real-life documentaries were few and far between.
Doesn't that sound exciting to you?
Their purpose was to teach kids the proper way to behave.
To teach the proper way to behave. They showed this at school. Didn't the Bible do that too? Basic instructions before leaving Earth. Then the Quran. Do you see the power? Hold on, just in case y'all forgot. Just in case y'all forgot, let's go through it again. Basic instructions to be before leaving Earth. This is how you behave, right? The Quran pretty much reinforces everything that happened in the Bible, damn near, except in the Quran, Jesus is a prophet instead of the God or the deity, right? But it's telling you how to behave. Telling you how to behave, right? I can't read this, so I don't know what's on it, right? But most likely it's telling you how to behave. Eat more chicken. Isn't that telling you how to behave? Everyone's on these squares. What are they doing? Telling you how to behave, right? Then you go to your tablet, and information from your tablet is telling you how to behave, right? The newspaper is spreading propaganda and information about countries and world and cultures you never experienced. So they're creating enemies for you. They're telling you to hate communists, even though you don't know what communism is. Hate the socialists, even though you don't know what socialism is. And old school Americans were taught to hate the Japanese, right? Telling you how to behave. Atari, entertaining you, right? But telling you how to behave. Things in here telling you how to behave. Games like Contra, right? Metal Gear, telling you how to behave. Role-playing games are telling you how to behave. Look at all these squares, right? This is hardware. All the information coming off it is software, and it's downloaded into your head, telling you how to behave. All these squares, right? All right, y'all got me.
And to repeat and reinforce a set of rules.
The rules were things you talked about on the telephone with your friends, and they were imposed by your parents. Parents talked about it a lot. There were high school counselors who told you what the rules were, and even if they weren't written down, everybody really knew, and you could almost read them out, cite them. And I think looking back on it from the 60s, what people did in the 60s was self-consciously break every damn one of them.
The women of this family seem to feel that they owe it to the men of the family to look relaxed, rested, and attractive at dinner time.
Every single thing that these people are saying now, right? Now, mind you, the younger males are getting this from older males, right? What they say is feminine behavior. Listen to this, because all of it is a production. Women don't produce femininity. Their hormone is estrogen. Males don't produce masculinity. The hormone is testosterone. Femininity and masculinity are just like logic and reason. They are ways of thinking, okay? People took thought and ways of thinking abstractly and actually associated it with people, right? So when they're saying be feminine, that's from this. Listen to this. The women, they what? What did the women think?
And they were imposed by your parents. Parents talked about it a lot. There were high school counselors who told you what the rules were, and even if they weren't written down, everybody really knew, and you could almost read them out, cite them. And I think looking back on it from the 60s, what people did in the 60s was self-consciously break every damn one of them.
Listen to how they say the behavior of women is, right? This is how, now mind you, immigrant women are not coming to America behaving like this. Do you know why? Because it is very tough where they're from. Okay. Very difficult where they're from, where everybody has to keep their head on a swivel. What they are doing is creating what it is to be American. All right. A masculine man, he does this. A feminine woman, she does this. That is all production. They are characters, yo, characters. All right. And the people that are talking about, oh, women need to be feminine, start challenging them and asking them a question like, what is that? And where does it come from? Where does it come from? It comes from this. Listen to what they say that the woman is.
The women of this family seem to feel that they owe it to the men of the family to look relaxed, rested, and attractive at dinner time. Brother notices the time and realizes that he must put things in order and clean himself up in time for dinner.
Mind you, they're teaching this at school.
What were the rules? One of them was obey authority. Don't ask questions. In the 60s, millions of young people would renounce that one.
These boys greet their dad as though they are genuinely glad to see him, as though they had really missed being away from him during the day and are anxious to talk to him. This is a time for pleasant discussion in a thoroughly relaxed mood.
Even when dudes are talking about you need fathers in the home, this is the guy, this is what they're talking about as if it looks like this. They're saying you need fathers in the home, even if a father is detriment, just have a body in there just cuz. They have an image and a picture as if the male in the home, this is what he is. They're not considering that the male may have a drinking issue and he shouldn't be in the home. As if no one ever considers that the presence of the father could be detrimental more than the absence of the father. Of course, if it's a healthy situation, he should be at home. I'm not talking about that. But it's assumed that every father, oh yeah, it's because no dads are in the home. Well, where are they? Oh, he's a drunk in front of. Well, why would you put a drunk in the crib? That makes no sense. They are literally speaking of an error that is from TV. This shit don't exist.
Funny. They don't pick this time of the day to spring unpleasant surprises on Dad.
We are molding our boys the way we feel they should be molded in the 50s. I think you have to start molding right away when they're just infants. And so that was our influence. We tried to make this a very influential time, a constructive time, through Boy Scouts, through church, through Cub Scouts, through Little League, or not Little League, but the little pony leagues or whatever they had, these little kids. It was awfully cute. Yeah, they were fun times with our kids, with our boys. We had a great time.
Let father and mother guide the conversational trend if they desire. After all, they made all this possible.
My impression of that time was that a child was to be seen and not heard, and that we were never allowed to express anything that was negative.
Wow.
We were never allowed to talk back in any way, even to question why should I do something or could I do it later. We weren't treated as if we were people. We were another species.
Another rule, control your emotions. In the 60s, masses of baby boomers would reverse this one and, quote, let it all hang out.
Oh, I'm so happy. I could be a model or a cover girl.
And what's got into that crazy kid sister?
Oh, Jeff, don't be that way.
Notice how Mother seems to become angry herself because of Jeff's anger. Perhaps she shouldn't, but anger is a violent emotion, and we often see an induction of behavior or spread of emotion to other persons, almost like a contagious disease.
Don't they say black women have attitudes? You see where the stuff comes from, right? The people that's repeating it don't even know where it comes from. They're listening to talking heads, right? So if the woman displays any type of anger or or being upset or disgruntled is considered now masculine. You see where it comes from? Right? The 20-year-olds are listening to the 50-year-olds try to plug them into a world that doesn't exist, right? That is based on social engineering, right? It's not talking about human design. It's not talking about any astrology. It's not talking about any numerology. It's not talking about any alternative sciences or none of that. It's just based on this ideal of how the world is supposed to look. Understand, when a person uses the word suppose, they're talking about this period right here. A man is supposed. A woman is supposed. The word, when you use suppose, is a truth that you would like to be true that is not true, right? So when a person says a man is supposed to be a protector and a provider, they never actually expound on that. First off, protect, what kind of protector? Most guys can't fight. So that's not nature, right? You have to learn how to fight. Provide what, right? So your market is based on that. You know what I'm saying? Because how do you explain third world countries? There is nothing for the guy to provide because they have no infrastructure. So when people are saying this, they are talking about pictures in their head. And where do we get our pictures again? Let's go through those squares. Even though I disproved that the other day because Adam wasn't a protector or a provider if he was the first man. But this is where we primarily, especially in, let's just say, the last 60 years, this right here. This is one of the original TVs. When you sat people in front of this right here, the brain can't differentiate what's real and what's fake. This replaced this, which is the Quran, and this, right? So people started to see the world through this lens. It's Hollywood. Hollywood is so powerful that the majority of women wear makeup, right? And makeup was for prostitutes and actresses. That's how powerful Hollywood is, that women have fake asses now. That used to be something that was done for adult entertainment. Now a chick that's working a regular job has fake tits, right? That's how powerful this is. That's how powerful the square, the television is, right? But this got replaced with these squares right here. Now people's reality is based on this and this. So when you'll hear a person say, you don't see white men say this, you don't see Mexican women say this. What they're talking about is because they haven't seen it from here, then it doesn't happen. Right? There's this misconception that Chinese men don't talk bad about Chinese women. You know why? Because the person didn't see it from the square. So if it didn't happen in the square, then it didn't happen. Right? You don't see other groups of people say this, that, and there. Y'all know, y'all heard people talk like that. They're talking like that because of the square that they have. They didn't experience they didn't experience it in their algorithm. Therefore, it does not happen. Right? And whatever they experience from their square, that's reality for everybody. Right? Them squares, you see? Newspapers, squares, right? Then the modern male, what you call a beta male, whatever that is because of this. This has reduced what you would consider traditional male behavior, aggressiveness, competitive, bullying. This right here, this square has changed the nature of the majority of males, and now females are getting into gaming too, and it will also change their nature as well, right? So this is the rise of the new world, which is based on Ready Player One, right? Neo Geo never really got popular, right? And Drive Through the Hollywood has pretty much shaped the American household. All right, let's finish up with this real quick.
If you misbehaved, you weren't normal. And the idea of normal is a kind of vegetative state where nothing happens. But that's what everybody tried to aspire to. But I think it's a word that people are constantly using to exhort you to behave better. Why don't you be normal? It's not normal to wear your hair long. It's not normal to wear Levi's. It's not normal to listen to rock and roll. It's not normal to read comic books. There's a whole list of a million things that everybody does that isn't normal.
Well, what makes you think they look at your clothes? Oh, because the other fellas wear sweaters or just shirts, not a regular suit like mine.
Well, wear a sweater then.
Another rule, fit in with the group. Don't.
Boom. Now, one of the things that white people in America have done a good job is white America has splintered off into individual pursuits. So you'll see a lot of rock climbing. You'll see people doing their own thing. Black America is stuck in this right here. All right. So whatever white people do, we try to copy, but we're always 20, 30 years behind what they do. Right. So by the time we get into tech, it's a wrap. It's already done. By the time it gets to black Americans, it's already done already. It's finished already. Black Americans have a real problem with individualism, right? So it's so interesting that one black represents 50 blacks, right? So he or she has to think in terms of the group, right? He or she has to think in terms of the collective, right? And before the 50s and the 40s, people were tribal. They didn't necessarily go off a collective. But in America, you have things, identity politics. So we group people together based on how they look. Oh, that's a white guy. Okay, that's a black guy. Okay, and based off what we think group behavior is, we associate that to individuals. Okay, so a black woman or a black male has to listen to hip hop, have to wear Jordans. There are certain group things we have in our mind. We plug those in with individuals, right? So this is why every black person always talking about we, our community, even though you don't live there, right? You can live in Alaska and you're still going to say what goes on in our communities. You can live on Mount Everest and you'll still say our communities. You can live on Mars and you'll still say our community. You could be Aquaman and live under the water in Atlantis and still say our community. But you're not talking about Atlantis. You're not talking about Mount Kilimanjaro. You're not talking about where you actually live. You're talking about where you don't live. Because you have to associate yourself with the group or there's something wrong with you. You're a coon, you're an agent, and they police you and bully you back into that group. How dare you talk for yourself? And then they'll guilt you and say our ancestors. And then if you say, well, name them. Who are you talking about? Our. Well, if it's an hour, then let me hold some money. If we have the same ancestry, I shouldn't have to tell you to like and share the video, right? Because we're the same, right? Or not, right? Because when it's time to be a group, we're not a group, right? So make it make sense. Because it's nothing but lava and fire coming out of our mouth. Why do I have to tell you to hit the Cash App? We have the same ancestry, right? Or not? Only when it's painful. So the way this group is interesting, is that this group is only a group in pain, right? But when it's time to pay somebody, not a group no more. You see? So, but this is the origins of a lot of the identity politics or the group identity thing. Fit in with the group. They're teaching this in school in the 50s. Fit in with the group.
Stand out. Conform in your actions and your appearance. In the 60s, great numbers of young people would, quote, do their own thing.
Pick out the most popular boys and girls.
Not blacks, though. Whites. While white people were doing their own things, black people had to do group shit to be individuals. Meaning the civil rights era was a group thing for individual rights. Because once everybody got their individual rights, there was none of that no more, right? But it still exists to this day in terms of we, us as black people. Like who are you talking to? What does that even mean? Let me show y'all something though. What do they experience on their square? I don't watch police brutality videos. Some people do. I don't watch race baiters. Some people do. So they are experiencing slavery and Jim Crow right now through this square. The birth of their child does not supersede what happened in 1619. Right now, people are experiencing a slave experience on their square. Out of all the things they can look at, they are looking at people go through pain on their square. And that, what they get from their square, they go out and live in reality and then try to plug you into that and say, no, we are oppressed. Power of the square. I'm trying to stay in the spirit of game. So I need 10 people to come through with the 10 on the Cash App because I want to stay in the spirit of game. So I need 10 people to put $10 in the Cash App right now in the next minute because I want to stay in the spirit of ism, in the spirit of game, and in the spirit of this coin gang philosophy, right? Because I'm gonna, when this is done, I'm gonna tell you how to change the square, change the input on the square. So 10 people, go ahead and do the Lord's work. Go ahead and put 10 in the Cash App because I want to stay in the spirit of game.
School, keep an eye on them. Try to figure out why people like them. Not that you'll ever be just like any of them, but you might learn something. Yeah, see you then.
Many young people found these restrictions painfully repressive, but they struggled to obey them anyhow because if they didn't, they knew there'd be unpleasant consequences from society or from their peers.
Jenny thinks that she has the key to popularity, parking in cars with the boys at night. When Jerry brags about taking Jenny out, he learns that she dates all the boys. What about Jenny? Does that make her really popular? Do the boys and girls like her? Is she welcome to join this group?
Hi, Betty, Ellie. You can rest your tray here, Jenny, for a minute. Thanks. Say, Wally, how's the play coming along?
Oh, okay, Jenny. Here, Jenny.
No,
Thanks,
girls
Jerry.
who park in cars are not really popular. Not even with the boys they park with. Not when they meet at school or elsewhere.
Listen.
Nothing like being this popularity. Yeah.
I think that there was this sense that, yeah, well, sure, they're using sex to be popular now, but, you know, what about in the future? They're going to be like thrown in the rubbish pile. And I think that did happen because I think that boys did maintain an attitude of, you know, they wanted to get laid, but they wanted to marry a virgin.
Sounds familiar. Let me put my thinking cap on. There are some people that are talking like this. I wonder where they got that from. The guys want to have sex, but they want they want to marry a woman with a low body count. Everybody put that emoji, that thinking. Hey, do me a favor, everybody in the chat, YouTube and Facebook, put the thinking emoji. Hold on. Let's play this again. Have any of you ever heard this before?
Jenny thinks that she has the key to popularity, parking in cars with the boys at night. When Jerry brags about taking Jenny out, he learns that she dates all the boys. What about Jenny? Does that make her really popular? Do the boys and girls like her? Is she welcome to join this group?
Hi, Betty, Ellie. You can rest your tray here, Jenny, for a minute. Thanks. Say, Wally, how's the play coming along?
Oh, okay, Jenny. Here, Jenny.
No,
Thanks,
girls
Jerry.
who park in cars are not really popular. Not even with the boys they park with. Not when they meet at school or elsewhere.
Nothing like being Miss Popularity. Yeah.
I think that there was this sense that, yeah, well, sure, they're using sex to be popular now, but, you know, what about in the future? They're going to be like thrown in the rubbish pile. And I think that did happen, because I think that boys did maintain an attitude of, you know, they wanted to get laid, but they wanted to marry a virgin.
Oh my God. They are literally talking to you and trying to plug you into 1950s media. Do you think body counts just started? No. They were teaching this in school. They were telling the boys and the girls what to think. Who's telling them? Who's in charge of the curriculum, and why? Because it's hard to control people that do their own thing. These guys in the red pill space are really 1950s with their info. Interesting.
Yes, isn't that Eileen?
It sure is. Baby and all.
Gee, I haven't seen her since she left school.
And maybe this was the biggest rule of all. Don't even think about having sex.
It's interesting because the same guys that call women hoes and whores, the way that they become hoes and whores is sleeping with guys. That is so strange to me. So on one hand, the guys are talking about nasty, slutty women that are having all this sex, but they are the guys that are sleeping with them. That is so interesting to me. That's like the drug dealer selling the drug to the junkie and then talking about the junkie. There's no junkies without the drug. Make it make sense with the logic out here. I'm all about free market, do what you want, but it's a confusing message. On one hand, you like whores. You want the women to be that. You want them to be freaks. You want them to give up the pussy. You want them to do all these things. That's what y'all say. That's what you want. But you won't marry that person though. So you'll contribute, right, to the thing that you say you dislike. Interesting. So you'll contribute to what you dislike and then pass it off to somebody else. I call you're a hypocrite. But here's what I'll say. Verily, 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 I have not come to undo the law, but to fulfill it. If you sleep with a whore, sir, you are also a whore. If you sleep with a hoe, you're a hoe. Do you know why you're a hoe? because everything she's experienced, you've also experienced. Now it is on your penis. Mind you, you went in her body. So everything that she is, you are. Oh, you don't like that. So you'll be like, yeah, she trash, but I'll still fuck. What do you mean? If she is trash and you enter her, you are trash because your antenna received whatever is going on with her. Here at CoinGate Ministries, we invest in the accountability business.
In the 60s, young people all over the country would proclaim, if it feels good, do it.
Mary, wait. Sorry, Mary.
In the height of emotion, it's not always easy to stop and think things through. But if you just slow down the rush and pressure of your feelings a little, then judgment has a better chance to take hold and guide you away from wrong behavior.
It was sort of a nightmare. Looking from the outside, I'm sure it didn't seem that way to an observer, but for me, I felt so lonely. I was popular and I didn't have those problems. I wasn't a nerd or anything like that, but there just wasn't anybody from my planet, is the way that I kind of described it. I felt like I had so much bottled up inside of me.
Most kids trying to behave properly did keep it all bottled up inside. But a minuscule number began to rebel. It was a preview of coming attractions.
What startles me when I look back at my yearbook photos now, they all look so old. Everybody looks so old. I mean, they look like little adults. You know, they don't, it's startling to me how old, how already getting into the groove all of these people look with their flat top crew cuts. And then every so often, you know, you turn the page and you see the guy with the ducktail. And you know, here's the rebel.
Being a rebel by slicking your hair back and wearing a black leather jacket seems harmless now. But in the 1950s, many adults saw this as the first sign of teenagers going bad.
Many teenagers are as concerned as their parents with the public's conception of today's youth. These students are portraying what we consider bad taste in school attire and behavior. This student is wearing an extremely tight skirt.
Improper dress was an innocent way to defy adult restrictions. But a growing number of young people were turning against society's rules in more significant ways.
No split levels, no Cadillacs, no Bermuda's bridge, no falling weight. What are they doing with their lives?
Some were inspired by the beatniks, a small but conspicuous group of young adults in the big cities who dabbled in marijuana, wrote poetry, and won scores of imitators in high schools all over the country.
Cellophane wrapped in the black nightmare of the endless factory. My soul squeezed in the hydraulic press of eternal drip, drip, drip.
We started, a bunch of us, putting out a poetry magazine, and suddenly it was banned because of one little poem. And so we had our first publication suppressed. And the poem I still remember to this day was, "I'd like to kiss just left of center of the valley of her breasts, and then I'd try the other side," or something. Anyhow, so they banned the magazine, and we went outrageous.
The banning of, quote, unacceptable ideas provoked certain politically aware students to begin questioning the values, the motives, and the judgment of school officials and others in authority.
And then one day, the principal came into the class and had us all pass up our copies of Catcher in the Rye and told us to forget that we'd ever seen this book. We learned fairly quickly that the book had been banned by the school board.
Why? Why is the book banned? See, a new square, right? Why is the book banned? Because it's not this square. This square for the last 1,500, 2,000 years has told people how to behave. And the average human being is has terrible comprehension. So they take this literal, every single thing, and then try to create culture from it. And what happened is, because this behavior of so-called morality and people being extra on their best behavior or good, it is not natural. The natural behavior for humans, men and women, is rebellion. And every time society goes through a very strict period, people rebel. And that's what happened in the 60s. And also, that's what's occurring now. And it's occurring with women, Black women in particular, because I showed you the one white woman 50 years ago that said she could only be 4 things, right? Now, mind you, Black culture in America is always late to the party. So now, being late to the party, the white women already did it. Now it's Black women's turn, and they are rebelling, right? Because of not being able to participate in the market. And because of that rebellion, the male is making all types of content because he has no control over this Black woman. So he tries to plug her back into this right here, and it ain't going. You got some that's going to go, but that ain't going to last too long, right? They seen too much. They seen too much. It's not happening because they have this and they're reading. So what you're doing is you're trying to minimize a PhD as a small thing. Yeah, okay. Where in the world is a PhD a minor thing? You're trying to minimize income. You're telling me Black men are in the middle class. The middle class ain't shit right now. That's not a positive. $50,000 a year, that's we're gonna starve, especially after this inflation kick in, right? But that's what happens. You let any suppressed group, meaning this is what I mean suppressed, not being able to participate in the market. When they have the opportunity to participate in the market, it's a wrap. And you see that with immigrants coming to America. They have the ability to participate in the market, man, and look at their pace. Look at how fast they're going. They're not going by this because that doesn't match the reality. 2,000 years ago, people, Daniel and John, come on, man. Like, people got crackheads in their family and people that have been to jail and real life experiences. Why would they take the experiences from 2,000 years ago of strangers when you have these individuals in your family you could draw off of? Trials and tribulations. That doesn't make sense, right? This square, and this square dominated the early 19th century. But now this square, it's a wrap. And you're either going to adjust, adapt, or die. If you're just coming in, go ahead and do the Lord's work and go over slide at that Cash App. Go ahead and put a 5 in there. 20 people, go ahead and put a 5 in there.
This turned out to be a real learning experience for all of us because we learned a lot more than we would have learned if we'd just been allowed to read the book. Because this way, of course, not only did we read the book, but everybody in the school suddenly wanted to read the book.
Books could be censored, but now something came along that was much harder to stop. Something that millions of young people would seize and use as a means to further separate themselves from adult society.
Mind on the beat, set on flight control, radio to rock and roll.
The arrival of rock and roll in my life was like something that came from another planet. We hadn't heard anything like that sound before. We hadn't heard people making that kind of noise, breaking all limits
of politeness.
So that's Little Richard. So this documentary continues to go. But I wanted to make the points about squares, right? And I wanted to show the parallels of what people are saying now and to let you know where they're getting it from. Shows like Leave It to Beaver, the show Harriet, Ozzie and Harriet, I believe, they are trying to plug people in an Aquarius reality into a Pisces reality that does not exist. That is not the new world. And all societies change. Charles Darwin said it the best. It's not the species that is the strongest or the fastest that survives. It is the species that has the ability to adapt. People are running around thinking it's a war on masculinity. Masculinity came out the square. It's not even real. We made it up. It's a word that came out of humans' mind. Now, there are males that are lacking testosterone. That's true, but it's not a war on the masculinity is just an ideal, just like everything else. One ideal is popular and then it falls for another ideal. That is the human trend. People are out of season, right? And you got to be very, very careful when you're listening to 50-year-olds with on YouTube and creating content, because first of all, they are out of alignment. They were born in a reality where there was no internet. Right? They are out of season with their intel. And they are not telling you what search engine optimization is. That's something that you need to know. They're not talking about STEM. They're not talking about aerospace. This is where the job market is going. They're not talking about automation. They are talking to you about these de facto ideals about dating, right? But technology has changed the way people engage with each other based on the square, right? So for you to create a new world, you're always going to deal with the square. So you have to change the input on the square. No matter what, you're always going to be in the box because our world is built on squares and circles, right? Circles. So you're always you'll never be out the box, ever. You'll never be out the box. Okay. Let me see something. Seen a good point. So how does a man in this day and age adapt, in your opinion? That's a good question. My answer to that is he has to create himself. What that means is you can't lean on society to do the job for you, right? You can't lean on society to do the job for you, right? So let's be clear. A man is involution. It has nothing to do with image. So that's number one. We have to be clear and on definitions, and there has to be a separation. A male, that's how you look. You have paws, you have testicles, you have hair on your face, right? Your voice. That's what makes you male. Hormones. But man is involution. Male deals with evolution, physical changes. Involution is where your manhood begins. It's something on the inside, right? And I would say the way to adapt to the world is to leave it alone, meaning to engage with it, but leave it alone. It's not yours. Pisces told you it was yours. So males, everyone's trying to change the world. The world is not asking you to change it. The world is not asking you to save it. The world is not begging you to stop the way things are going. Hey, have y'all noticed that the sun rises and sets every single day? Trust me, if there was a real problem, the sun would say something about it. The earth would say something about it. The water would say something about it. What happens on earth stays on earth, right? So for a man right now to adapt, allow. I'm talking about allow the world to do what it's doing. I'm not saying anything about your personal body though, right? You can basically be centered, be at the level. Good day, you're okay. Bad day, you're okay. You ain't too high, you ain't too low, right? The art of allowing. People are going to do whatever the hell they want, right? A transgender is not your business. You don't have to watch TV. You can create the reality for your children to be in. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to watch TV. You don't have to engage with online. The world is so big, and there's things set up for you to have the community you want. There's a thing called meetup.com where like-minded individuals get together. But the society is not going to support your maleness as it once did. The society doesn't have a job for you. They've been outsourced for cheap labor, right? The square is not going to do the work for you, right? So this square right here set a world in motion that guys didn't have to do anything, because all you had to do was say, well, the Bible said. So you could be in a relationship with a female that was intellectually superior than you, but you could cut her down by saying what the Bible said. That ain't gonna do the work for you no more. So now you have to do the work. Now you have to define what your manhood is. And it's not based on talking points. A man is a provider and protector. Is that true? Is it? Who said that? Okay, good question. How can a woman adapt in this day and age? The way that a woman can adapt in this day and age is resist the urge of immaturity, meaning that that resist the urge of the petty, resist the urge of the average girl chat, because the average girl chat is trash and there's nothing happening. I would say the way that a female adapts right now is to get more into philosophy, get more into above the neck things, because what they teach you is that men are logical, women are emotional, which is false, right? Because this is the thing. Like, let me show this. Let me show this again. So men are naturally logical. Yeah. So the average guy, this is his mindset right here. This is the average guy. He knows the laws of logic. He thinks like this. So the average guy, this is what we're saying, that the average male in the world, this is his mind right here. There's things like laws of logic. Logic is a way of thinking. It is not hardwired into every male's brain. Because question, is it logical to tear all the trees down? That's our oxygen. Is it logical to ruin the ocean? Is it logical to mess up the environment? All right. That's what people say. Those are called talking points. Those are called talking points. But what I would say for a female is to resist the resist the shade room, right? Master your emotions like a male should master his libido. So your emotions are part of your human meat suit. You was born with it. You can't help it. But what you can do is transcend it. Meaning you use or when you feel something, separate yourself from the feeling and study the feeling. First off, why do you feel like that? Why are you being triggered? Right? Step back and analyze it, right? And then allocate your emotions to where it's beneficial. Use your emotions as a compass, not for a conversation, not necessarily for a relationship, meaning that, use your emotions to pick the right lottery ticket. Use your emotions to determine what's the best book on the shelf that you should get. Use your emotions for commerce. Don't use your intuition to know a guy's cheating on you. What the hell is that? Use your intuition for a return on investment. How come a woman's intuition only got to do with what a dude is doing? Make that make sense. So a woman's intuition only activates when it's in terms of jealousy. Why can't the intuition activate for something that brings increase? Nah, right? So that's how you adapt, and you're going to need to do that because we are living in a quantum reality where things move extremely fast. We're also living in a digitized and a artificial intelligence reality. So everything you think you know, throw it out the window. Men and women, what you think you know, throw it out the window because it's not going to help you move forward. All right. And listening to talking heads, if their conversation isn't futuristic, if it's pulling you back into the old squares, you got to leave it alone. If it's pulling you back here, now, when you go here for the philosophy, right? Don't go here for the history. Go here for the philosophy, like money answers all things. That is a good philosophy, right? Go here for educational purposes, not belief. You understand? Don't go here. I don't give a damn about a Sumerian tablet. That's an old box. We are here. And when you are on this box, create or structure your recommendations for your videos and your algorithm to benefit you. So when you come here, you're having a great experience. Why would you be in a box here to experience videos and content you dislike? Now, the way that you change your YouTube algorithm is, let me see if I can help you change, because a lot of people don't actually know this right here. You see if I can. Okay. I'm gonna tell you how to change your YouTube algorithm. So the things that pop up on your computer or on your phone don't pop up no more. Let me share my screen. I'll show you. Share for sure. Share screen. All right, so we just had 2001 Space Odyssey. Let me share my screen real quick. All right. Let me make this big. Can y'all see my screen? Press 1 if you can see my screen. I'm going to show you how to change your experience on YouTube. Also, you can do this on your phone too by erasing your history. All right. Can y'all see my screen? All right. Right here on every screen, on every video on YouTube, you see these 3 dots on the right? Y'all see them 3 dots? When you click on the 3 dots, you see it says not interested. And then sometimes it'll say don't recommend channel. Do y'all see that? Do y'all see where it says not interested? For anything that's popping up in your timeline, if you want to change your YouTube algorithm, click not interested. And also click don't recommend channel. But the way this works is you got to stay on task. All right. So you can't click on no fuckery. All right. You can't click on no effery. You gotta change what you gotta change. Yeah, that's the way that you change it. Them 3 dots on the side of the video. You go there and you put not interested. Keep clicking not interested, clock not interested. Right? Then when you do that, click not interested. Do not watch no content of the gender war, none of that. Then go somewhere like here. Go to somebody like Bob Proctor, right? Then when you go to Bob Proctor's page, subscribe. What does he talk about? Results never lie. Become the master of your life. Do exactly what I said, how to shift your paradigm. Now, then content is going to start, like Bob Proctor, is going to start coming up. Right? Just go to each page. I'm going to show you another one. Go to Lewis Howes. Lewis Howes interviews a lot of successful people, right? This is all the stuff you want in your feed and your algorithm. This is what you want to just consume your life with this. And it's going to help with limited beliefs, all that. You need to listen to Tony Robbins. This is Wim Hof. This is the Iceman. This guy talks about breathing. He can be in ice. He sits with his underwears on in the cold. I mean, he's amazing. And it's all about breathing. Look, the healthy foods you should absolutely not eat. Look, all this. That's how you change your algorithm. Now I'm sitting up here telling y'all what I do now. Right? My watch list. Let me see if I could go. I'm gonna show y'all my watch list. Let me see. Watch later. Let me see if it's on there. Can I hold on? This is Ken Brisbone's behind the scene watch later. This is what I watch. I'm showing y'all my back office of what I put on watch later. Let's go through this. Some of it, I got hella videos. Let me see. Some of this is old stuff. Gary Vee, State of the Union and Marketing. 13 Rules of Being Relentless. Tim Grover. The Crown Prince of Saudi. Taoist Philosophy, Rejecting Dogma. The Genesis Story. Inside Cryptocurrency Revolution. This Trick Makes You Immune to Illness. Notice, not one poll. Great leaders do what drug addicts do. Navy SEALs, American Secret Warriors. The Threat of 5G. Let me see. I can give it a big scroll. Ain't no fuckery on here. Manufacturing Cassette. Eric Weinstein, Controversial New Approach to Theoretical Physics. How and Why the Germans Bought Hitler's Pitch. Construction of 505th Avenue. I can scroll. I can keep scrolling and do that. 5 Hindrances to Self-Mastery. Dr. D. I'm no fraud. Look, I can scroll for days. I can Sam Zell, Economy, Law, and Entrepreneurialism. AlphaGo, your kids should look at that. The Oldest Written Story on Earth, Biblical Series, Introduction to the Ideal of God. Lost Worlds, Atlantis. Yeah, this is what I'm on. Shark Tank, Kevin Leary's Morning Routines. This is my watch later list. JP Morgan, Finance Documentary. Al Capone, Untouchable Legend. Look, I can do another scroll. No fuckery. Antarctica, Frozen History. Plato Describes Atlantis. Nothing. The Mysteries of the Lost Persian Empire. This is what I watch. This is what I'm into. No fuckery. Not one. Mysteries of Forbidden Language, as told by Lilith, Queen of Harlots. Jordan B. Peterson. Not one. The Rise of Bitcoin. The difference between socialism, communism, and Marxism. This is what I be on. So anytime I even create a fuckery post on Facebook, it's so people come to it. But this is what I'm on. Machine learning, living in the age of AI. Create your watch list like this. This is my watch list. The Book of Enoch. Look, when I do a long scroll, there's no fuckery. From Millionaire to Madman, The Lost Tribes of the Bible. Come on, man. Robert Greene, The Laws of Human Nature. All these is videos I plan on watching. The Communist Manifesto, full audio book. Neuropsychology of Achievement. These are my audio books. Persuasion IQ, the 10 skills you need to get exactly what you want. This is my audio books. The Neuropsychology of Self-Discipline. Wizard of Odds, The Power of Probability. The Origin of Life. Emotional Intelligence audiobook. Silicon Valley Online Slave Market. Franklin D. Roosevelt, Network of Spies. Nip Hustle. Why I got that on later. Larry Ellison, Billionaire Samurai. Former CIA officer will teach you how to spot a lie. Luxury of the Super Rich. Yeah, this is what I be in. And notice, I'm doing the long scroll. The long scroll. I can keep going like this. The story of Vlad the Impaler. I got it. Let me see. I got it. Oh, this is when it first came out. The Big Sean and Nip. I gotta take that off my watch list because I already heard the song. The Real Life Christopher Columbus. Look, Donald Miller, The Power of Storytelling. Napoleon Hill, Douglas Murray. We're moving from one belief system to another. This is what I'm on. I'm showing you behind the scenes of what I do when I'm not online talking to y'all. Social media dangers, the psychology of self-esteem, the rise and fall of the world's greatest city, luxury lifestyle of billionaires, and its range. So it's not just one thing over and over. Quantum biology, the hidden nature of nature. Not one police brutality video. Neuralink, smartphones, computers. Not one police brutality video. George Washington Carver, An Uncommon Life. Charles Ponzi, the history of the Ponzi scheme. The Children of Odin, Norse mythology audio biography. Manly P. Hall, Golden Verses of Pythagoras. The Mysteries of the Dark Ages Look on my scroll. I could go right to the bottom. All fire. Where did Chicago go wrong? America's hyper-segregated city. The art of optimism. The rise of Julius Caesar. The Secret Doctrine, Madame Blavatsky. The Five Families. That's some mafia shit. Change Your Brain, neuroscientist Andrew Huberman. The Impact of Prince Hall Freemasonry. Look, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, audiobook. Vince Lombardi, the coach who put Green Bay on the map. Range. You know why? Because I'm adapting to society. The Rise of Artificial Intelligence, Silicon Valley, The Science of Spying, The Hidden Secrets of the Islamic Architecture, The Psychology of Human Misjudgment. Okay, a little something. I showed you behind the scenes. There you go. Let me see. Can you take notes? If so, have extensively. Nope, no, not really. Unless it's something I just hear things in bites. The way someone speed reads when I'm listening to something, I'm watching something, I only consume what sticks and I can hear right now. So I filter it out. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah. Look, what boxes? What boxes are you looking at? Because that's what's shaping your reality. You're always going to be in a box. Remember that. But what is the box, right? And you got to be in season. If you are talking about gender roles right now, you're in the wrong box. What you need, and in my opinion, I would suggest to you to have a conversation about ability. Because ability is what's going to allow you to keep up with artificial intelligence. So the guys, you're having a conversation about femininity. That's a stupid conversation because that has nothing to do with ability. And you keep listening to these talking heads because they entertain you. My advice to you is to create the new world that is good for you, right? You put the input on the boxes and go by that. Don't listen to the 50, 60-year-old people that are out of season. They don't have even know what to do with technology. They are done. They are dinosaurs. Nothing wrong with old age as long as they are in season, right? If I'm going to listen to somebody 50 or 60 years old, I'm going to listen to Grant Cardone. I'm going to listen to Bob Proctor. I'm going to listen to Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki is still in season. Robert Kiyosaki is telling us that the pensions are gone. Robert Kiyosaki is telling us the importance of investing in Bitcoin. He's 70-something years old. I'm not going to listen to no 50 and 60-year-old trying to hold on to a culture and traditions that, first of all, was based on production that don't exist because I need to feel special as a male. My saying is, if you want to be number one, just be number one. If you want to be number one, just be number one. I'm gonna go ahead and put that that Cash App link back in the chat. Go back to the beginning of the video and study these boxes and see how you got how you are and what boxes are you engaging with, because it's the boxes, it's these that are setting the tone for your life. This stuff right here. Box, TV, box, old tablets, box, billboard. Boxes tell you what to do. Everything coming out of a box is telling you what to do. Remember, the box is the hardware. What's in the box is the software. The software gets downloaded in your mind, and that's how you behave, right? So if you want to figure out how to move forward, be the person in charge with the software that's going on the box. So that is the scientist conducting the experiment, right? So for those, my Cash App is, my PayPal is right on the screen. My PayPal is right on the screen. It's paypal.me/KenBillions. Appreciate that. So be the person that is putting the input on the box, because if you don't put the input on the box, you are being controlled by the software on the box. Now, all of us are under mind control. We all are. But if you're going to be programmed, be in a program that produces a ROI. Don't be programmed with shit that just gives you ability to argue and debate. If it produces a return on investment, if it makes your life better, be programmed by that. But you're gonna be programmed by something, because there's never gonna be a time where you are not in a box. Squares and circles run the world. Squares and circles. Rectangle car, circle square, circle steering wheel, right? Squares and circles. The compass, the utensil, the compass, and a square, right? That's what the world is. Squares and circles. It's only two shapes, and things are a variation of either a square or a variation of a circle. That's how it goes, right? A pyramid might go like this, but the base of it is square, right? That's how it goes, baby. So this is Coin Gang Ministries. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you have the conversations with your loved ones about the squares that you are using, because you're going to use a square, but make sure the square is in season, and make sure the square is changing your life, and make sure as you develop, you begin to change the software on the square, and you are in control of the software, right? And that's how you affect realities to come. I'm gonna leave you with this. Remember this. What this was 2,000 years ago, this is now. This right here has set in motion the next 2,000 years, right? What you do or not do on this right here is going to determine who is in the permanent underclass. I'm going to say that one more time. What you do or don't do on this, if you don't know how to use this the right way, that's going to set in motion what the if your bloodline is in the permanent underclass or not. All right. My name is Ken Billions, man. This is Coin Gang Ministries, and we invest in accountability business. But before you go ahead and put something right in that collection plate, right? And it's, remember, the Cash App is not a donation. This is not charity. This is capitalism. This is value for value, right? I give you value, you give it back to me. That's the Coin Gang way, baby. Peace.